In the glittering world of Chinese entertainment, where whispers become headlines in seconds and a single photograph can ignite nationwide speculation, Xu Kai has once again found himself standing in the center of a storm. This time, however, it wasn't about a new drama release, a daring fashion shoot, or a career milestone. It was about something far more personal, his past marriage and the unresolved truth surrounding it. The drama unfolded when news broke that Xu Kai had been seen entering the headquarters of Xu Lisha's agency late one evening. Fans and paparazzi immediately lit up the internet with questions. Why was he there? What did it mean? Was this the long-awaited clarification about his rumored marriage to his ex-girlfriend? The answers, as it turned out, were even more dramatic than anyone expected. When Xu Kai walked into the agency building, the atmosphere was tense. Every eye seemed to follow him as though he carried with him the weight of 1,000 untold stories. Xu Lisha's management had been unusually quiet in the past weeks, allowing gossip to swirl without interruption. The rumors had gone unchecked for too long, and now the truth, or something close to it, was about to surface. Xu Kai, always known for his calm demeanor on set, appeared different that night. His jaw was set, his hands clenched slightly as though he was preparing for battle. He wasn't walking into a simple meeting, he was walking into a confrontation with the past, one that threatened to derail not only his career but also his carefully guarded personal life. Inside the sleek, glass-walled conference room, representatives from Xu Lisha's agency sat waiting. There were managers, PR specialists, and even a lawyer, clear signs that this wasn't going to be a casual discussion. Xu Lisha herself was absent, but her presence lingered in every file folder stacked on the table, every strategically placed document that bore her name. The meeting began quietly. Pleasantries were exchanged, but the silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Then the first question was dropped like a bomb. "Mr. Xu," one of the agency heads began, "what is your official stance on the circulating rumors that you were secretly married to Xu Lisha before her debut?" The air seemed to freeze. Xu Kai leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable, but the flicker in his eyes revealed that the question had struck deep. After a long pause, he answered with a voice that was steady yet tinged with unspoken emotions. "There are truths," he said slowly, "and there are versions of the truth that the world has created. Tonight, I am here to separate the two." The room shifted. Pens hovered over notepads, ready to capture every word. Xu Kai went on to recount the years before his fame, a time when he and Xu Lisha's paths had crossed in unexpected, almost cinematic ways. He spoke of moments that seemed pulled straight from a romance drama, the quiet cafe where they first met, the late-night walks in a city that never slept, the promises whispered between two people who believed they could shield themselves from the chaos of the entertainment industry. And then, the revelation. Yes, Xu Kai admitted, his tone suddenly firmer. There was a marriage. But it was not the fairy tale the world imagines. It was fragile, hidden, and ultimately unsustainable. The words rippled across the room. Some agency members exchanged stunned looks, others scribbled furiously, but all leaned in closer. For years, the whispers of Xu Kai's secret past had fueled online debates, with fans dissecting blurry photos and cryptic social media posts. Now, the truth was being laid bare not in tabloid speculation, but directly from Xu Kai himself. He described how the secrecy of their union became its undoing. The relentless schedules, the need to maintain flawless public images, the inability to appear as a couple in public, all of it slowly chipped away at the foundation of their relationship. Xu Kai admitted to moments of guilt, nights of sleeplessness, and the crushing pressure of watching love fade in the shadow of fame. But perhaps the most shocking moment came when Xu Kai revealed why he was now at Xu Lisha's agency. It wasn't simply about clarifying the past, it was about protecting the future. "Lisha deserves peace," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She deserves to move forward without the weight of our history dragging her down. I will not let her career be haunted by what we once were." The agency members, who had initially prepared for confrontation, were taken aback by his vulnerability. Instead of defending himself, Xu Kai was choosing to defend Xu Lisha. His words painted him not as a man trying to erase the past but as one determined to take responsibility for it. At that moment, the meeting transformed from a cold negotiation into something raw, almost painfully human. Xu Kai was no longer the actor adored on screen but the man behind the spotlight, admitting to mistakes, heartbreak, and the scars of choices made long ago. As the night stretched on, more secrets unraveled. Xu Kai confessed that part of the reason for their divorce was his inability to balance ambition with intimacy. He admitted that fame had come at the cost of authenticity, that every red carpet appearance had distanced him further from the man he had promised to be. He spoke of how, even after the separation, he silently watched over Xu Lisha's career, supporting her from the shadows while refusing to step back into her life publicly. Tears were not shed in that conference room, but the weight of his words was enough to leave everyone present deeply unsettled. The agency, once prepared to issue harsh statements, instead began to soften. They saw that Xu Kai's presence there wasn't about rekindling old ties but about severing the last threads of rumors with honesty and respect. When the meeting finally ended, Xu Kai stood and bowed. Not a casual nod, but a deep bow, a gesture of apology, humility, and finality. He bowed to the managers, to the representatives, and, symbolically, to Xu Lisha herself. As he walked out into the night, cameras were already waiting. Flashes lit up the darkness, voices called out questions, and microphones were thrust in his direction. But Xu Kai said nothing more. His silence carried more power than any denial or statement ever could. For those who had been in that room, they knew the truth. For the rest of the world, speculation would continue, but this time, with a weight of authenticity behind it. The following morning, Xu Lisha's agency released a statement. It was brief, carefully worded, yet powerful. Yes, there was a marriage in the past. Both Xu Kai and Xu Lisha have chosen to move forward with their lives and careers separately. We ask for understanding, respect, and an end to the speculation that has long shadowed them both. The internet exploded. Hashtags dominated trending lists, fans flooded social media with shock, heartbreak, and support. Some mourned the love story that ended too soon, others praised Xu Kai's courage to finally speak, and many applauded the maturity with which both sides had handled the revelation. But the most striking part of the entire ordeal wasn't the confirmation of the marriage. It was the reminder that even in the dazzling, carefully curated world of celebrity culture, behind every headline lies a human story, one of love, loss, choices, and consequences. Xu Kai's meeting with Xu Lisha's agency wasn't just about clarifying rumors, it was about reclaiming truth from the clutches of gossip, about facing the ghosts of the past so that both he and Xu Lisha could step into the future unburdened. And though the world may continue to speculate, dissect, and dramatize, those who truly listened that night understood one thing clearly: Xu Kai is not running from his past, he is owning it. And in doing so, he may have written the most powerful script of his career, one not captured on screen, but lived in reality. As fans continue to debate and analysts continue to spin theories, one image remains etched in memory: Xu Kai, bowing deeply, choosing sincerity over silence, and reminding everyone that sometimes the bravest role an actor can play is themselves. The first revelation shook the room, but what happened after Xu Kai's admission was even more breathtaking. The atmosphere inside Xu Lisha's agency grew heavier, as though every word spoken was carving history into stone. What started as a stiff, businesslike gathering had become a stage where Xu Kai was forced to relive his most vulnerable memories in front of people who once doubted him. The managers didn't waste time. They leaned in with sharper questions, probing deeper into the story as though peeling back layers of a mystery novel. One PR representative asked pointedly, "If you cared for Xu Lisha's future, why stay silent all these years? Why not clarify earlier?" Xu Kai exhaled, his eyes glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. He wasn't the composed star fans adored on screen, he was a man struggling between dignity and regret. "I stayed silent," he admitted, "because silence was the only protection I could give her. Imagine what the public would have done to her image if our past had been exposed at the height of her debut. She would have been branded before she even had a chance to shine." That answer froze everyone. For the first time, the agency representatives saw not a rival, not a scandal, but a man who once loved deeply and perhaps still did. His sacrifice had been hidden, silent, and now painfully revealed. The meeting room seemed to shrink, its walls closing in with the weight of unspoken emotions. Xu Kai went on, painting vivid scenes of the life he once shared with Xu Lisha. He spoke of secret birthdays celebrated in cramped apartments, of handwritten notes tucked into each other's scripts, of promises whispered during sleepless nights when fame was still just a dream. But the fairy tale always carried shadows. He described the countless arguments that stemmed not from lack of love, but from the suffocating secrecy they were forced to maintain. Xu Lisha longed for a normal life, while Xu Kai was swept into a rising tide of fame that demanded perfection. The pressure cracked their world, and though they tried to hold it together, it slipped through their fingers like sand. One of the agency's senior executives, who had been silent until then, finally spoke up. His voice was stern, but his eyes betrayed curiosity. "Mr. Xu, if you truly believe in protecting her, why come here now? Why reopen wounds?" Xu Kai leaned forward, his voice low but steady. "Because the rumors have already done their damage. Remaining silent now would not protect her, it would destroy her. And I will not allow that." That declaration stunned the room. For a fleeting second, even the agency staff who had built their careers on controlling narratives felt disarmed. Here was a man refusing to defend himself, yet willing to take the blows for someone else. It wasn't strategy, it was sincerity. The tension reached its peak when Xu Kai requested that certain personal details remain undisclosed. He explained that while the public deserved honesty, there were still parts of their past too fragile, too sacred to be placed under the glare of public judgment. And then came the most dramatic moment of the night. Xu Kai pulled a folded letter from his pocket, worn, creased, and clearly cherished. He placed it on the table, sliding it toward the lawyer. "This," he said softly, "was the last letter she wrote me before we ended things. I've carried it with me all these years. Not as a chain to my past, but as a reminder of the cost of silence. If anyone questions whether I loved her, whether what we had was real, this is proof." The room went silent. Nobody dared touch the letter, but its presence alone was enough to send chills down every spine. It wasn't just paper and ink, it was a fragment of two lives that had been intertwined and then torn apart by forces larger than themselves. At that moment, the lawyer cleared his throat, breaking the spell. "Mr. Xu," he said, his tone more gentle now, "what do you hope to gain from this meeting? What outcome are you truly seeking?" Xu Kai's reply was immediate, his eyes unwavering. "Closure. For both of us. And respect for the woman who once trusted me with her heart." The statement hung in the air like a vow. The managers, once defensive and wary, found themselves nodding unconsciously. This wasn't a negotiation anymore, it was a confession, a reckoning, a final attempt to set things right. When the meeting adjourned, Xu Kai didn't rush out. Instead, he lingered for a moment, his hand brushing against the back of the chair where he had sat a day. His expression carried a bittersweet mix of relief and sorrow, as though he had left pieces of himself behind in that room. Outside, the paparazzi chaos was deafening. Flashes went off like lightning, voices overlapped with desperate questions, and fans screamed from the barricades. Xu Kai walked past them without a word, his silence louder than any statement. But those who saw him up close noticed something, the faintest trace of tears at the corners of his eyes, quickly hidden by the shadows of the night. Meanwhile, back inside the agency, the representatives sat in stunned quiet. The letter still rested untouched on the table, a ghostly reminder of everything they had just witnessed. For the first time, the agency realized this wasn't just a PR issue, it was a love story that had collapsed under the weight of fame, leaving scars that time alone couldn't heal. When Xu Lisha's agency later drafted their official statement, their words were unexpectedly warm. Instead of cold denial, they chose honesty. Instead of protecting only their client, they acknowledged Xu Kai's pain as well. And in that rare act of unity, the industry saw something extraordinary, two opposing sides choosing dignity over drama. But the story didn't end there. Overnight, fans flooded social media with theories and emotions. Some dug up old photos, pointing to subtle clues of their hidden relationship. Others wrote heartfelt messages, praising Xu Kai for his bravery. Many mourned the love story that could have been, while others celebrated the strength it took to finally bring it into the light. In the midst of the chaos, one image became iconic, Xu Kai bowing deeply as he left the agency, his shadow stretching long under the streetlights. To his fans, that bow symbolized not defeat, but redemption. To others, it was a farewell gesture, an acknowledgement that some stories, no matter how beautiful, are meant to end. For Xu Kai, the meeting was more than a clarification. It was his final gift to Xu Lisha, freedom from the ghosts of their past, and the chance to let her walk into her future unburdened. And perhaps, in giving her that freedom, he found a measure of his own. The continuation of this story proves one thing: while the cameras capture Xu Kai as a hero on screen, the man behind the lens carries battles far more real, and far more heartbreaking. And maybe, just maybe, that makes him even more unforgettable. Don't forget to like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more unbelievable celebrity stories that will keep you hooked.